yes to yes. Today we're going to use some of the paper mache decorative heads of deers and other antlers that you can find at Michael's right now. You know, they're super hot. You see them everywhere in the bright white ceramics. But I'm telling you right now, don't take these Michael's cardboard paper mache ones and try and fool anyone to thinking that you have purchased the expensive one at Z Galleries, because you haven't. They have necks and beautiful plaques, and I've seen some of these painted to actually look like deer or gazelles and mounted on wood log cutouts. Don't do that. If you're going to use these, make them fun and funky and purposefully different. You're not going to fool anyone that they're a real antler, so make them a fun decorative piece. Now, we gave you a snowboard headboard for a kid's room, and now I want to make these to complement that and go in that room. You can paint it to be any color you want yours to be. I would suggest staying away from Christmas red and Christmas green unless you're specifically going to use them as Christmas decorations, but I don't think they need to be. I think they can be up year-round. So here's what we did. I got one of the actual heads and 2 sets of the antlers to make our grouping on the wall, which you'll see when we're done. I started out by painting all the antlers white. Now, in this case, I just used a primer and paint in one. I used a semi-gloss. They have these little wire hangers on them. You need to flip them down below the cardboard so they don't end up a weird color and show more on your wall. And then I just gave them a quick spray. I started with them actually upside down. So I got the back side first, and then just flipped them right over and did the top, because the back is going to be up against the wall. For some reason this isn't coming out right, but you can see. Nothing fancy about that, except this will absorb. So if you don't have one that's a primer, it's going to still absorb. Then I decided I wanted the base to be a different color. In this case, I made it a chalkboard. All I did to do that was I used some fat blue tape and taped it right where the antler meets the base. And then I covered it. I just put a trash bag over it and sprayed that black. Now I decided, just for fun, to use some cardboard black. So we could write kids' names, anything we wanted on these, and it'll be fun. It just adds a little bit of something to it. Then I thought, how am I going to make these interesting? I'm going to use the bright colors from that headboard and use fun patterns. Now, I took thick painter's tape and covered the entire head in it, the entire thing. Then I took my Sharpie and drew these chevron patterns. And with my X-Acto knife, I went around and I pressed deeply and cut clean lines into this and pulled the old stuff out. I did have to go through, and where there's a couple of oopsie places, add a fresh piece of paint, or tape rather, and then I am ready to paint it. So I'm going to actually paint it this same bright blue that's like the tape. And then I'm going to let it dry and come back in and do the antlers. So really, it's just this simple. Now, I'm going to tell you, you have to draw the lines and draw out the thing, and it takes a while to get the X-Acto knife to cut your pattern right. So if you feel comfortable freehanding it, that's what I would recommend. But I know a number of times I hear from people that they want to, the freehand projects intimidate them a little bit. So we're going to let that dry. That is glossy bright blue. It's going to be fun. It's not going to look Christmassy at all. Then I'm going to come back after that dries, which we're not going to do this right now because obviously it's bright white. I'm going to come back in and I'm going to stripe the antlers. I'm going to give you 2 different ways to do that. One, you can take a thinner tape, and at Michael's they have Martha Stewart tape that's even smaller than this. You could go teeny tiny stripes, which I think actually might be kind of fun. Take your tape off that you use to protect the antler. And in this case, because I spent so much time with that tape, and you have to get these kind of even, I'm going to suggest that you just freehand it. So in this case, since we already have a black base, I think I'm going to use a bright teal and do stripes. Probably don't do polka dots. I guess if you love polka dots, what the heck, but plaids would be cool, chevrons are cool, stripes are great. I'm thinking about these for a boys' room. And so if I do polka dots, then we're going to start looking a little girly. And we might even want to be sure and maybe even use a darker teal, but because I'm mixing in blacks and bright blues, it's not going to matter that this is a slightly lighter teal. Plus our headboard's awesome, and we're going to make a birch bedside lamp so that we have kind of the fun mountain look. I'm going to keep doing that all the way up and around until the antlers are completely striped. And that's all there is to it. Then we're going to flip these back up and hang them on the wall over the bed. Let's take a look.